pieces as pieces, or us seeing them in that context?
I think with Fendi in particular, I'll be excited to see how the show's put together, just because it's obviously styled by Julian. I used to work with Julian a really long time ago, and everyone at Fantastic Man, so like I love his work, and I think that everything that he does and puts things together in a really
interesting way. How long has Julian Gagnon been styling?
He's been doing it for a while now.
He's a long-time collaborator.
I want to say at least 4 years, at least. But he's been doing some really exciting things, and I think that the way that he's kind of put it together in the magazine as well has been
Well, it will be very interesting to see, and to see
I think he's very clever, actually. Yeah. I think because he has, you can see the consistency through the seasons, but it's not overdone. Yeah, it's just very relaxed, and also it always feels like it evolves, which is quite a hard thing to do with menswear sometimes. But you can see he has signature things that he does, which I think that's cool.
And of course, he'll be working with, under a very different way of working. The clothes will be very, very different this season.
Not under the Kaiser.
Not under the...
Yes, exactly.
The Karlster.
I work with Karl quite a lot as a stylist, and he's actually the most open-minded, easygoing, and kind of down-to-earth person in a funny sort of way that you could possibly work with. So, and really open to ideas. I mean, I used to do the maddest things when I was in the 90s with him for interview. Well, just like, we just... No, we're not in that way. But we just explored a lot, and I think I don't know Julian, but I'd imagine he probably misses working with him.
Yeah, definitely. I think, from what I know about Julian and his work, I feel like he always has this like really functional take to the way he puts together a look, but then at the same time there's always something a little bit fun or crazy in like every third look, that keeps it exciting and keeps it fresh and keeps it unexpected. So
That's very Fendi anyway.
It's very Fendi, yeah, exactly.
That playful, fun feeling with luxury.
Yes.
And does he have an influence on the artist in residence every season?
So this season it was Luca Guadagnino.
I would imagine so, because I feel like
Riley, maybe.
I feel like the accessories collaboration last season, he would have definitely had some sort of influence, because it felt very him, like that whole introduction of Porter with Fendi was like really, really
So it really is a very collaborative process.
I mean, I'd like to think so.
According to our expert.
I don't know. Not seen him in a while.
I think in SS18 it was Sue Tilley that they collaborated with, and he very much brought her in and created that whole, I guess,
feeling as well.
Whole feeling of it. Which
and I guess that Fendi, it does change so much as that happens. It's such a kind of, it ends up being seasonal in this very unique way. So as I sort of was saying before, Luca Guadagnino is the director known for Call Me By Your Name, Suspiria, A Bigger Splash, has collaborated this season and has created this some prints and looking at kind of botanics for Fendi. So maybe we'd like to have a little look and give our first responses. So if we want to scroll up to just maybe the first few looks, that would be great. So already we see quite a lot of accessories.
A lot of green.
No surprise.
Lots of green.
So we're surprised to see green. Normally we see
brown. And beige.
Are we happy about that?
So far.
It's not groundbreaking, is it?
Okay. There are already lots of touches.
It's a lot of green with the kind of the foliage in the background.
Tree hugger.
Are you struggling? Is this sort of, what you're saying about seeing a flat image? You're not necessarily getting...
Yeah, it's very...
You can see everything, but...
It's painting a picture of like this beautiful, like, almost schoolish garden boy who, and I guess it's kind of like showing you, giving you a little bit of insight into looks in spring, sort of.
So as it's the director of Call Me By Your Name, are we expecting it to start off with young boys and then end up with the older men?
Maybe.
I honestly haven't seen the film.
Are the older men in the bushes?
I think I could see one there.
Yeah.
Well, I got to see the live, and it looked like a big painting, like a live painting. So actually seeing the colours and the nature, everything come together, that it was really beautiful to see. And you kind of understand like the color palette more so when you actually watch it, because you just see the green and then it starts getting...
And with the light.
Yeah,
I'd
with the
imagine,
light,
yeah.
everything just comes together beautifully. So, like you said again, seeing things in its live form, it's a lot more better. And a lot of designers, I think with shows, they're so important because it's like we're the artists and we're like showing you our live art. So the only way we can translate it in the best way is within a show. So.
And you were saying, you know, how important the music is to your kind of eye when you're watching the show. Did you pick up on the music in the film?
I didn't get to hear the music. I think
it was quite a classical score.
I think it's more like nature sounds. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Isn't it the guy that did Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, the Japanese guy?
Yes.
Sakamoto.
Yeah, so he's called Ryuichi Sakamoto.
He used to work with David Bowie, I think, but he did the music soundtracks for quite a few movies.
So according to my very useful press release, he alluded to a canon of classical composers, including like Debussy, Ravel, Satie, and John Cage. I think that, you know, when a creative director chooses to have music that's more kind of a classical era and something that it definitely changes the feeling of this. And the setting, it's so, you know, it's bucolic, it's outside.
Yeah. You can take in the smell of the surroundings as well.
You can really...
Natural light catching the clothes rather than...
Yeah.
I think particularly with menswear, the seeing the motion is just better.
Yeah.
You know, I think for some reason it's I don't know, it's quite hard to look at some of the boys in the pictures and it doesn't feel slightly awkward sometimes. So you also, when you're casting the show, you choose the models on their presence and how they move as well as what they look like. So.
Why is that? Is that about the shape of the male form compared to the female form?
I think so. Well,
Phoebe, you're wrinkling that nose.
I just think it illustrates better the mood of the collection. And how the designer has seen, you know, the Fendi man for this season.
So watching this now, the models are sort of strolling.
Yeah, he's like quite romantic. He's relaxed.
It's not power walking, is it?
No, because I mean, a lot of the shows recently in the last few years have been really fast, haven't they?
I think
Urgent.
they said something about men being more in tune with nature. So if you did walk fast through the gardens, it's like you're not really embracing everything that's going on. And with the climate we're living in, nature is like so significant right now and so important because, you know, a lot of people are not taking care of the environment and stuff. So it can go really deep, you know, if you really want to dive into it. So I really like how she kind of like played with that whole concept.
Must have been a lower budget as well, because clearly you've already got the setting. You don't have to pay for.
No, they've just kept the same floor as well.
And there's no fur.
There's no fur.
No fur.
Not yet.
You might sneak some in a lining somewhere.
Well, yeah,
Be a little curious, because it's quite
normally
gardening
quite
heavy.
seasonless fur at Fendi, isn't it? It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, all the kind of the points, like you were saying, you know, they're looking at the sort of gardening baskets and these sort of waxed jackets.
The trousers are so good.
Yeah,
So good. And those little cuts. It reminds me actually of the Dunhill trousers from last fall. Really, really good, like slimline trousers with like that little kick. Really, really elegant. They fall really nicely, and there's a lot of movement, especially in the white. And then there was a really nice cargo, which had like a dark green pocket. Is so good. And again, it's about like pulling the pieces away and making them wearable, and just like extracting just one piece, and it still feeling like the brand. And I think that they're doing that so far. Really good boys. Yeah. Julian always casts. He casts like amazing.
Best boys.
Always really, really good boys.
I mean, the colours on their complexion is amazing.
Actually, it's reminding me of Giacomet a little bit. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there are some sort of Giacomet-esque elements. And spoiler alert, if you skip a little further, as we'll see, there are some sort of flashes of flesh in places and some lattice knits.
And the buckets as well. And even like these big floral prints were very like prominent in the Giacomet collection as well.
And we were saying, last season felt very trend heavy. And of course, points like the raffia, and there are elements that are nodding to the trends. But for some reason, this feels much less trend focused.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Well, it's kind of everything, isn't it? I mean, the shorts are all different lengths, the trousers are different shapes. It's not a rigid silhouette.
There's not as much logo mania as well as you usually see.
Yeah, the last season I don't think there was any Fendi monogram, and like the previous 3 had been very monogram heavy.
Which I'm so happy about.
And what's that thing they do with the knitting? They call it intarsia or something. It's like when they do that thing with the logo, the graphic.
Yeah, where it's
thing. Yeah, and they do it with the fur as well. They do it.
Yeah, that was one of like the first bags I ever bought my mum. I remember like saving up for it, and I actually bought it still in the sale in Selfridges, and it was like still £600. I bought 2. I bought like a metallic-y, like poofy one for my sister, and then I bought like a carpety style one, both with the monogram on it. My mum. No, it wasn't the baguette. It was like a sort of boxy shape. I just wanted them to be like elegant, but
Boxy
still had
ladies.
like they could still put enough stuff in it. And then there was a little coin purse, but the bags are just so expensive. I wonder if they've gone down in price.
Is the show about the bags?
Well, exactly. That's an
probably
excellent question,
sell-
Karl.
Yeah, I mean, because every bag is different. It's
I'm
like,
interested-
It's like a parade of bags.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the gardening gloves? Have you noticed it?
I mean,
Like, what's the use of that?
Do you think
Pruning
those are
a
more of
bush.
a showpiece?
Yeah, before you get to the office, quick prune of a bush.
Which bush?
You're sort of relaxed CEO. Yeah,
Landscaping.
whatever you like, I think.
Maybe that was Luca's touch.
I could do without the gloves, but
It's just to make it really obvious.
it's
that
a
they're
bit
got-
Mickey Mouse, the glove, isn't it?
Yeah. You think it hammers the point
I kind of
home?
hate that they're monogrammed as well. I wish they were just like actual.
Oh, look, watering. Is that a watering?
I mean, just
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
watering
is a
can.
Okay.
But it's
Really are on theme.
monogram.
Yeah, got to get the monogram in.
What do we think of these prints?
I'm not sure on that print.
Is there Fendi with
I'm much more into the florals, if I'm honest. Oh, there goes the caramel browns.
Now we've got to brown. Now, are you all thinking when you're looking at the show from, do you have your like stylist hat on, as it were?
Yeah.
No, I kind of look at the whole look, and then you kind of also, at the same time, dissect.
Dissect it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what you yeah.
Initially, it's whether you like it first.
Yeah. Because I mean, before you even know, the fabrics, anything like that, I guess you're just looking at the colours and the shapes and just the really obvious things, and then you kind of form an opinion, and then you start to look at specifics. So yeah.
Bits of fur coming through.
I do prefer it to previous seasons, I have to say.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit like apprehensive because I haven't seen it yet, and I was thinking, oh God, am I going to like it? Am I not? But I do definitely prefer it to
I
previous
love the
seasons.
shade.
These
There's so
70
much to choose from, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff in there that you could always find things.
But I think I think we almost forget like the magnitude of the brand as well. And like, when you look at a Prada, when you look at a Gucci, these are huge shows with like a multitude of looks. And I think that people kind of sometimes almost overlook Fendi a little bit and kind of forget its heritage. And I mean, those 70s sort of floral printed shirts were great with the blazers and like larger scale, so they kind of make an impact, but then at the same time they're quite equally discreet.
But why is it not so much on? We were saying earlier, it's not really on our radar so much. Why is that?
Like
Where do we see? Maybe we just don't. It's not as visible to us.
Is it the buy? Is it where they're placed? Is it obviously they have
know.
so many stores, so it's like often.
I think I get it a bit confused with Valentino sometimes in my head. I don't know why. I think some of this could be Valentino. It could be a bit Dries. It could be, But I just don't feel I connect so much with it.
Yeah, same.
I'm glad it's moved on from such heavy sort of sportswear, streetwear.
Yeah, thank God.
Well, this is something that I think we're seeing quite a lot of. It seems like, in the constant menswear battle of sportswear versus sort of luxury tailoring, Fendi seems to have come out flags flying for a more luxurious look.
And I think of the brand as well, I don't feel like they have their their ambassadors that kind of like fly the flag for Fendi. I feel like Gucci,
Do you think
other
that's
brands,
maybe why it's
You
not
have like a lot of
much in the
influences that they kind of...
but maybe it's just like lower tier and it's not like iconic.
But do you think some people have a problem with it because it uses so much animal fur and leather and skin and reptile? I
Is that a problem for
Is that an issue for an influencer, perhaps?
Yeah, it is. I think
the sort of moral element of
because it's just not. A lot of influencers are passionate about that type of stuff, and like, you can create anything. You don't have to kill an animal, and you can make faux fur. And I've seen like some amazing quality fake fur. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like you can dupe it. So with Fendi having that too, I do believe it does kind of like affect.
Tarnish it slightly.
Yeah.
I think it's also the fear of the reaction of other people. If an
Seeing
influencer
comments.
is like,
Yeah.
great,
Like,
got this new Fendi fur jacket, everyone's like, murderer.
The thing is, even if you're wearing faux fur, it's still glamorizing fur
and
anyway,
also
because you're
damaging
looking
the
like you're wearing
environment.
fur. So I
Also
don't really
damaging.
get the whole point of faux fur either, because it's made to look like fur.
It's also very bad for the environment.
Yeah.
And
But
Stella,
maybe Fendi is not so easy in summer. You know, maybe it's more of a winter brand.
but I feel like it feels nicer in the summer.
Yeah.
I love this.
Because I feel like the layers probably don't work as much for me in the winter.
Yeah.
I just feel like the fabrication is always too heavy. The furs are always like that sort of very thick, like almost like fleecy fur that is just quite like a bold look. It's not really something that you can introduce into your wardrobe.
But I wonder what that coat
fur
is.
detailing.
Yeah. That alone I would feel is quite aging, but the way it's styled is...
Yeah.
This black feels completely foreign for...
I like the glasses.
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying
I
that.
love the transparent ones. I was playing with like sort of semi-see-throughness, aren't they?
So these are, we're going to get some flesh flashing.
Flesh fashion.
Flesh,
like that.
flesh flashing.
That's
Yeah,
a quote I
it's
read about
fleshy
Versace,
fashion.
actually. They were like, skin. I think it was the car, like,
Yeah.
skin is in Milan. I was like, what? And when was
Everyone's
it?
just
Not?
sweating so much that they're like, no, we can't.
It's so humid there, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
It is interesting with like this move on.
Yeah, that's fur, isn't it?
Or like hyper,
Summer, but fur.
you've kind of got like this hyper masculine fashion boy that's
I don't have a problem with fur, but I feel like I can't really say it anymore. It's like being a Brexit supporter.
No, it's not like that.
It's not that bad. I think this feels very relaxed and unself-conscious. I mean, I think I've looked at some of the shows, and there's elements where I feel a bit like, oh God, it's who's going to know what's the umbrella hat and things like that. You know, whereas this feels very sort of slouchy and easy.
So, yeah, like it or not.
Yeah, and you feel like you wouldn't feel uncomfortable watching it.
No.
And you know, you said about the walking and the motion, it definitely does feel like that's reflected in the collection. Like there is sort of a slower pace, you know, being sort of being celebrated. And I wonder if that is sort of an emotional thing, you know, celebrating kind of the, you know, nature
and being in the
things
moment.
about humanity and being present.
Because
you know,
they're walking
after the
they're
death.
walking through the garden without a mobile phone in their hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with their gloves on.
Yeah.
Do you think it could have something to do with, I don't know, obviously climate change and everything is quite a hot topic.
Of course, yeah.
Could have some kind of link to that.
I mean, there isn't really any reference to climate change, but I think it's definitely something that people pick up on.
And what's the influence of the director, Luca?
So Luca had an influence in the whole kind of art direction of the show. The florals that you were such a fan of, I think were his sort of handiwork. And apparently, so a lot of what we're seeing was kind of sketched on set of Suspiria. So he was kind of thinking about this work and about. I mean, you know, they've collaborated a few times before.
When he was doing Suspiria, he was doing this.
He was thinking about this.
That was ages ago.
Yeah, in 2018.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Or maybe he was just thinking about a print that they've just extracted
Maybe, yeah.
from the show. Yeah, it's strange because I haven't looked at it for a while, and looking at it now, it's like it's really nice.
Totally
It's just,
different.
I think it's just that whole moment of when you're putting such an investment on a statement piece, do you want to place your money with the brand? Are you happy with the brand DNA and what they stand for? And like you said, if it goes back to fur, if it goes back to them having the wrong placement with people that are associated with the brand, that wear the product, that all of that starts to come into play. I think they potentially, I'm kind of going to go out and say that I think that they might be moving for a more like refined boy. So it'd be interesting to see who starts to do the red carpet circuit. I could see Timothy in a lot of this.
Yeah.
Chalamet is
Yes.
very like, he was quite Dior heavy last season. And, like, when he was doing all the award ceremonies, he was like having loads of fun with like Off-White and all of these sorts of
It
brands.
feels like him, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
I feel like it would be interesting to see some of those boys in the pieces, just to kind of give the brand a little bit more of a presence within the youth.
And it definitely does feel a lot less animal heavy.
Yeah.
Is that because, do you think, I mean, what's going to happen to Fendi with everyone from Prada to, stopping using what's going to happen to them? Because
It's a
I'm
fur
sure the
house.
customer will always want it, but it's not necessarily cool anymore.
But I suppose it's just a question of how long that customer is around for,
Yeah.
and buying until.
Yeah.
But I was interested in, the associate. So you bought those bags for your mum and your
Yeah.
sister. Would you have done that now? Would Fendi have been the brand that you
I think
looked
my
at?
reasoning behind doing it then, I mean, I was 18, but it was like, Gucci at the time was very, very present. Prada was very present. Dior was very present. Like, this is around the time of the saddlebags and everything. Like, there was some real fun stuff going on. And I just felt like it would be nice to give an investment to something else and have the girls wearing something that was still established, still like a powerhouse, but just like, and still luxury, but just another take. But I feel like I've kind of not looked back at it again.
Really?
I'm trying to think who was designing back then. Oh, well, it still would have been Sylvia doing doing accessories, but yeah, that's interesting.
But the men's baguette bag came in last season, and they've brought it back this season. But these accessories, it's very, very heavy with these kind of access points, which is, always a smart thing to do, I suppose, the hats and things.
I think they're definitely looking at the patterns of the other luxury houses and
Yeah.
seeing kind of there's a huge investment in accessories and obviously given Sylvia's got so much experience with that, it makes sense for them to kind of push that. I think the collaboration last season was really smart. It was like a really nice way of doing this sort of refined statement-y piece with some of the bags. It was only just now that I'm seeing them, I'm like, oh, these are actually quite interesting. But I don't know, I feel like the male take on the sort of baguette isn't really needed. I think that they could have maybe done something a little bit more structured that kind of was maybe a new silhouette that they could kind of...
Because Fendi doesn't really cross over women's and men's, does it? Not like other brands, like Gucci or something.
Like two separate.
Yeah. I guess what's quite interesting in a way is that it's very, I guess it's for a house that's so entrenched in luxury, luxury is the core of its DNA. I think it's very hard in the current, dare I say, climate for luxury brands to project luxury without seeming ostentatious or slightly naff. And I think they kind of achieved it in this show because it feels quite easy, which maybe was a reason, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I keep going back to the theme, but I think picking a pastime as humble as gardening really had that effect.
I think this overprinted sort of floral gingham is quite strong, and I personally wouldn't have kind of spent too much time on those looks.
Right.
For me, it was more about the florals, but I do think the fabrication of some of the pieces look really, really interesting.
And also the layering's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah. So what are we picking out? What would you be interested in looking at and borrowing, perhaps?
For me,
Obviously the florals.
trousers.
Okay,
and
yeah.
floral. A lot of the trousers with the little cuts and the pocketed moments, really, really nice.
The cuts at the hem.
Yeah, there's almost like this sort of cargo structured, like evening trouser, where it kind of then makes, I would imagine it would make a guy's look really, really refined on top, and it's a little bit more interesting on the bottom. So it could be just a really nice classic white shirt or fresh cream or something like that with like one of the green cargo-y sort of pants and like, you know, a really minimal shoe. Yeah.
Would you be excited to play with this collection?
Not really.
Not really? Why is that?
Well,
quite
you know, I
positive
have an appreciation for it, but it's not something I would look at. There's not one piece I've looked at and thought, God, I've got to have that. I really want to buy that. And that's just me. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not a classic male dresser, you could say. So it's not something, that I'm looking at and thinking, love, love, love. But I really do like it, and I prefer it to previous seasons. So.
I mean, I feel like, because I wear a lot of men clothing anyway, as you can see. So I think I could have a lot of fun with a few pieces, because they do have like pieces that are really interesting, like the cargo pants, as he said. I love the dimension, the 3D pockets, and just interesting.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, just interesting pieces. So.
Do we have any close-ups on the shoes, on the footwear?
So an interesting note about the footwear, we've obviously been talking about the move away from sportswear. There's not any trainers.
Yeah.
No sneakers around.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I feel like that's been happening quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. They're not alone.
So maybe there's been like a shift away from sportswear, streetwear, or whatever. I think.
Yeah, Kim sort of started that, didn't he?
Yeah.
A little bit.
But I do think, I think we talk every season about every menswear season, we're one way or the other, we're like, it's just sportswear. No, it's over. We're back to...
It's very hard to analyse it like that, because at the end of the day, what is there?
Yeah.
Athleisure, tailoring. We don't have the same, we haven't got as many options until we get to the point where it will be,
Which shoes were you particularly taken by?
It'd be nice to see some of the sandals.
Yeah, the sandals. The sandals.
I think I saw like a white shoe.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see the bags, did we? They were sort of
That's
outside.
the bags.
Yeah.
Again, like just being in tune with nature too. It's just kind of like physically holding the water.
Yeah.
Like a physical reminder to water plants. Take care of your flowers.
But with Fendi.
I really like the sandals, as you were saying too. It's just, again, I think that reference back to the Roman heritage.
Right. Yeah.
Sandals and
I think if we look at this show in the context of Milan, in the context of what we're seeing, I mean, you come to expect, oh yeah, I like that.
yeah, the sandals.
Is that underwear?
Yeah. Can we go back and just look at that?
That's the one thing see that I like.
Yeah.
But again, it feels quite Jacquemus.
This is the look that I was thinking of, the very Jacquemus.
I think that, like I was saying this to you earlier, but I think that there's this sort of real, I mean, just in the environment for menswear, or the shopper in menswear at the moment seems to be quite like masculine, very sort of like, very showy, but then very trendy, and also not trendy, more a little bit like kind of ostentatious with their buying habits and kind of what we're seeing like lower tier from like a sort of fast fashion point of view. So it's interesting seeing the brands doing things that are so detailed and also are a lot about skin, because I feel like guys, just with shows like Love Island, Howie, all those sorts of things, it's all about skin, especially in the UK anyway, I feel like. It's all about skin, but I think brands are trying to play around with doing it in an intelligent way, where it feels still like quite masculine. I think Julian has a really good eye of doing that, and he doesn't like to make it feel too, what's a better word for that?
Camp?
Yeah, that's
Also
exactly
forced.
it.
Also forced.
Yeah, not so camp.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about sort of the Love
That's
Island
another thing you
effect.
see. If you
and
see
that
the guys
low to high.
walking, it's totally different to if you see that outfit sort of just as a picture, it could look a bit strange, but it's when it's in this context, it's different.
I'm conscious that the ticking clock is no longer our friend, but I want to see if you guys have any sort of final thoughts about the show, things that you would have liked to see more of, things that you hated?
I'm just not a fan of earthy tones in general. But that's just me. I feel like I'm quite fussy, but I can appreciate it and I do like it.
We're in green and brown now.
You earth monster.
Earthy boy. Definitely love the trousers, love some of the florals. It'd be interesting to see like pulling out of the key pieces in the campaign. I know that the last campaign, they played a lot in the film, in the fashion film, they played a lot with the accessories and it was really, really interesting. I think they had Malik, I forget his surname, but Malik was like their main boy, really, really beautiful, like dark-skinned, brown-skinned boy, just with like playing around with some of the suiting, with the zips. It was really, really interesting. So I'd like to see some of their key accessories placed with the right sort of talent as well, and also like across the campaign.
But what is that? Is that like a pony skin that's been laser cut or something? What is that?
Which look in the middle?
Yeah, I can't see what it is.
I think this lets them down, if
Can we
I'm
click
honest.
on the middle look to see if we can get...
No, I don't.
Maybe if we can zoom in a little bit?
He's topless underneath, right?
Yeah.
We're not a fan of the jean shorts.
No.
Then I guess like someone could buy that and wear it, obviously, with a t-shirt and whatever underneath. But they're showing it in a way that's...
I think we started feeling quite optimistic about this collection. I sense the kind of, as we look more and more at the details, it's a little bit of sort of dissatisfaction with some things that are going on. But I think they've definitely kind of, you know, given us...
I think the trouble with Milan in general is the shows are too long. I think they're too long.
Much.
I think you just get bored. I think that's what happens.
Too long as in too many looks?
Too many looks, yeah. I think it's better to have it edited.
I feel like
to like a half or third. I don't know.
You only show a third of the collection.
That was quite big.
How many looks was it?
But of course, Karl, you wouldn't have as much to play with.
I know.
Make your job harder.
Yeah, but then you go to the showroom and choose stuff that wasn't necessarily used.
It's interesting though, because like equally in Paris you'll have really big long shows, but they're like they kind of almost catch your attention a little bit more. Like Trees would you know, from start to finish I'd be like
Probably because no one
in
can
amazement, and even just the colour story and the involvement.
No, I'm joking. I said no one can be bothered to go to Milan probably, so they just want to... I'm joking though.
It's true.
Well, I haven't been bored because it's been...
But I think when we start looking at it like this, there's quite a few things you just go, you should take that out. I mean, like
What would you take out?
the one below, if you go down, the one in the middle, no, that way, take the middle one
This
out.
look.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
that's-
necklace.
Yeah, those beads.
I mean, that seems like a sort
And
of
what are
move to
those
look at
trousers?
a young
Okay,
customer.
fashion police.
But I mean, those trousers on the left there, the beige with the black.
But then you probably didn't
I love that.
notice that when it was walking past you. You know what I
Like
mean?
those trousers, for
didn't
example,
even-
they didn't need that jacket. It could have just been with a white t-shirt. Like,
Yeah.
just
What's
to
the top
kind of-
underneath? Is
show
it
it
like
off.
a
It's like
little
it looks like it's a
knitwear
sort of like a
matching
little.
top? Quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
I
them.
just find that those knitwear tops are quite like hard to wear. They're quite droopy, and like if you're like a slimmer boy, it just doesn't give like the best.
Yeah.
It doesn't hang that well. So
Round.
I think that sometimes it's also about like the way the product hangs and when it's moving as well.
It's very different to last season, how it was very sort of structured shoulders, tailoring heavy with the added sportswear element. There's like no real sportswear element, not even in the bags that they added last season to kind of bring something different to the tailoring. It just feels, super relaxed.
Is that a positive for the brand?
I think it's nice, yeah.
I think so. Okay, well, I think maybe we should give them a round of applause for giving us so much to talk about.
It's nice. Fendi.
Nice way to end.
It was nice.
It's nice to be on a panel with fellow stylists for once.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah.
It was really great. Thank you.
Very educational.
Yeah.
And I love a bit of the
And,
fashion.
learning about what people pick. I think it's really nice seeing a show and seeing what stylists would, take from that and actually work with. Because so often, like as journalists and as critics, you look at the show and you don't pick, you don't think about how you'd work with the pieces or pick it out. You're just writing and looking
that's
at it, and
a
then you're
question that
done.
I've got for Karl. What would be your key piece from the collection?
I quite like the one on the right. I thought that was amazing.
On the right. Okay.
Yeah. I thought when that guy walked past, that really, really stuck in my head.
And it's funny because the colours.
I thought he looked amazing.
Classically Fendi as well, but it's just again in that sort of refined.
Yeah, and I just thought the way they gave him a shoulder handbag and everything, and he just managed to pull it off, and he just looked amazing. I thought it was great. Yeah. And again, he had the best walk. He sold it to me.
Yeah. So good.
I never know the names of the male models, sorry.
Same.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we're out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.